your sweater's knit this way, right? Up, down, up, whatever. That was the opposite. Down, wait, wait a second. From the top down or from the bottom up? Okay, there, I got it. I figured it out. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 202 of the Love in Stitches podcast. Today is a Saturday. It is Saturday, October 14th, and I usually don't record podcasts on Saturday. I have a pretty consistent schedule of recording on Mondays, sometimes Sundays or Tuesdays, but I'm recording on a Saturday this week because we have a lot of crazy things coming up. So this weekend, I'm actually coming to you from Colorado. We're in a new state. We are in Lyons, Colorado, in the mountains. Like if you know Estes Park, that's a pretty popular place in Colorado. I think we're 20 miles away from that. We're near Longmont, Colorado, and we're like 45 minutes from Boulder, but we're here for a wedding this weekend. So right now I'm in the van with Toaster, of course, and Kent and a bunch of our friends and the bride and groom are doing a rehearsal right now. I'm not in the wedding. Kent is like sort of in the wedding, which is why he's at the rehearsal. So I figured I would go ahead and get the podcast started recording while they're doing that. So there's probably going to be a point in the podcast where I move locations again, just like last week. But the reason that I am getting the podcast recorded a little bit early this week is we are going to be doing some major traveling over the next week. We're going to be driving basically all day Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. So if there was any chance of me getting the podcast recorded, today is the day. Wedding's tomorrow. Needed to record the podcast today so Kent can edit it. Logistics. Anyway, I say that all to just tell you that there's not as much knitting and crochet in today's podcast as there normally is because there's only been about 3 days. Let's see, I recorded the last podcast on a Tuesday afternoon and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then now it's Saturday morning. So just to preface that there's not as much knitting content as there normally is. However, and this is important, next week, there is not going to be a podcast because we will have been to Rhinebeck and we're going to have 2 Rhinebeck videos. So one will be on Tuesday and then one will be on Thursday in place of the podcast. So next podcast, let me look at the dates. I think it will be the last Thursday in October. The next podcast after this one, it will be in November. It will be November 2nd. So I will have had a solid like 2+ weeks. Let's see, 1, 2, oh wow, like almost 3 weeks to knit and work on things. And so I hope to have so much to show you in the next podcast that it kind of balances this one out. I know knitting is not all about getting things done, but I like to have a little bit of consistency. I've still done a lot, mostly on my MKAL this week. So fair warning, before you proceed forward, there are Clue 1 MKAL spoilers in this episode. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Clue 2. I haven't knit any of Clue 2, but this is your warning in case you want to look down at the chapters below and skip ahead of that part. We're going to do this project just real quick, just to show you that it's still here. I honestly don't think I've done anything on it. Actually, that may not be true. I might have put a couple of rows. Oh wait, look. I did put a couple of rows on it. Okay, just kidding. I put a couple of rows in on my Tessellated Pullover. You may feel like me and be a little bit sick of seeing this project, but you know what? I am inching away on it. It is officially not going to be done for Rhinebeck because it still needs like, I don't know, a few inches on the back at least. I mean, closer and closer. Yeah, getting closer and closer. A few inches on the back, and then of course it needs sleeves. So you know what? I've just said, it's not going to be done for Rhinebeck. Now I'm not stressed about it. And now I'm just working on what's making me happy right now, which is my Stephen West MKAL. So that's the Tessellated Pullover by Andrea Mowry. I now don't really have anything to wear. Like I don't have any hand knits new to wear to Rhinebeck, but Oh well. I do have my long summer cardigan, which is the only sweater I packed with me when we started out traveling. We are going to be going back to my parents' house in November, where all of our stuff that's not with us is located, and so I'm hoping to grab a few more hand-knit sweaters then as we enter into winter and colder weather. I definitely could have used some this weekend. I think it's, let's see, outside right now it is 43 degrees, but it's really sunny, so it actually feels quite warm and quite nice. So anyway, just letting you know that project is still here. It's just not really getting a ton of work. Next up though is my blanket. I have managed a couple of Hexies, I think just a couple, since the last podcast. Let's see, my stitch markers. Oh, you know what? Maybe just one. I did preface the podcast saying that there wasn't a ton of progress this week, or this 3 days. It's not even really a week, is it? It's like not even half a week, but I'm still working on my Hexie blanket. This is the Summer Fade Hexie blanket by Mallory Krull with mini modifications. The biggest of which is that I added a round to each of the hexagons to make them slightly bigger, which I'm really happy with. I really like how that's coming out. So I just added one new Hexie, it seems, but I also did some work of like getting things cleaned up. In the last podcast, I had a lot of little yarn balls in here that I was kind of waiting to show. And then I did, so I got them all cleaned up, which feels good. So the color I added in this week is from a chick that knits, and it is called Canyon. And I have been going at a pretty good pace, one Hexie per day on this project until I really got back into the MKAL, and I'm telling you, it's just taken over the last few days. But this is Canyon. It's a really beautiful color, and it felt like an appropriate one to put in at this moment, even though a chick that knits is in Oklahoma. We did go to the Grand Canyon. I guess that was like at the beginning of 2 weeks ago, and now we're just in like a mountainous, beautiful place, and so it just felt right to put in some canyon yarn. This is what the ball of yarn looks like, or the cake of yarn. It's a hand wound mini that I'm pulling from the inside and the outside, and I just didn't have, I guess I didn't have my scissors with me when I finished this hexagon. So after I cut this and weave in the end, I will take this and I will make a hand wound ball out of it. So that's it for this blanket. I really had thought I'd done more. I guess not. I'm actually like itching to work on this right now. I might have to put in a Hexie today, just to satisfy that itch. Does that ever happen to you with projects where you just like, you have to, like, you just are itching to work on it? That happens to me a lot. So here is how she's looking, pretty much the same as last week, but I promise you, in 3 weeks' time, when the next podcast comes out, you will see a lot more progress. I have one other project that's just got a little bit of work done, and then we'll get to the MKAL. So this is my Beetlejuice Musselburgh hat. It is, oh, there you go. It is by Isolde Teague, and this is my 7th one, I think, that I'm making. This one is for Kent, and it's the first time I'm using a self-striping yarn, which is going to be really fun. So it's just here and available. Maybe I did an inch this week, just a little bit. Here and available as very easy knitting. I have made it through the increases. I had done that in the last podcast, but now I'm able to just knit and knit and knit on it. I actually don't think I moved my marker from the last podcast. Let me just slide that down slightly. I have been having a lot of fun since I haven't been working too much on my different projects. I have been having fun pulling out different seasonally appropriate stitch markers. So this one is from Simply Serving. I got it a few years ago, and it has so many details on it. Little haunted house, kind of like a cup of hot chocolate. And I actually have one of these for Christmas as well. That's green and has a peppermint handle. It's super, super cute. So this is just here for me. I have a feeling that with, well, see, here's the thing. This is a little bit of an MKAL spoiler, but the knitting on the MKAL has been relatively simple knitting. And so it's been the perfect project for everything. It's been the perfect project for bringing into a restaurant or carrying around for wedding activities this weekend or knitting in the car. So it's kind of just been like the all-encompassing project for me. But this one is ready to go for when I need it for simple, easy knitting. Oh, I forgot to show you the dyer. This is Night Owl Fibers. And the colorway is called Wicked Beetlejuice. I got this at Knitty Natty. They might still have some, but they also had a lot of her other colors that were for the holidays. So there was a lot of really pretty Christmas ones. I was super tempted by a Christmas one that had pink in it. It was kind of vintagey greens and pinks, and it was really, really cute. Are you ready to talk about the MKAL? This is your opportunity to skip ahead to the questions if you don't want to see this project, if you're still avoiding spoilers. Again, I haven't even finished Clue 1. I am doing a modified Clue 1, modified from the new version 3 that Stephen put out. So I'm doing a modified version. I haven't started Clue 2, but I am going to talk a little bit about it today. So this is your chance to look away. I'm going to show the yarns first. I do have all the colorways linked below. My yarns are from Ruby and Roses. So here is color A, B, and then I'm currently working with C. I don't know if I could hold them all. C and D. And I'm really liking how mine is coming out. I took a little bit of a risk going with like variegated yarns, but so far so good. Like, it's still looking really, really good. I was a little worried that maybe I would have wished I had done a solid yarn like all the kits were, but I'm really liking it actually. So here we go. I am going to now show my MKAL. I had barely done anything last week because I just restarted it on Tuesday, I guess. I had just restarted on Tuesday, and now I've already made quite a bit of progress. So here it is, and it's hard to show because I have it going in the round on the back, so I can't really pop it out all the way, but actually I'll put in a picture of what it looks like with just the center square done. So this was a modification. It's essentially mitered triangles that you then pick up and work another mitered triangle all the way until you have a square. And I got the instructions from a knitter online. Her username is Miss Blaine. And somebody had a really great idea in my membership to kind of thank and kind of compensate the people who have been making modifications and putting all the instructions in. They're essentially kind of writing a pattern, right? So to thank them for the work that they did for that, to buy one of their other patterns. So I know Pink Queen has been doing a lot, has been modifying that Clue 1, and a lot of people have been using theirs. I don't know if they have patterns, but I know they have a store. So if that's within your means, I just thought that was a really cool idea, a great way to, support people who are doing work and sharing it with us. So I used Miss Blaine's modification. I did change one thing. The original one that she did started with color A here and here across from it. And then I think it started with color D and color D. So basically these two matched and these two matched. But when I looked at it, I just thought, it's still making the lines aren't intersecting, but it's still kind of making like visually sort of an intersecting line-ish. And I just didn't want mine to be anywhere even within the realm of creating something that would not be appropriate. And so I decided to change my colors, and I thought, wow, I'm so clever. I'm changing my colors. And then later that day, Stephen West made a post on Instagram, or maybe on his stories, with a lot of different modifications that had been approved. And so I saw on there basically the same thing. Somebody did this where they changed up the colors. So I was like, well, it was just a clever idea. I'm glad that other people are doing the same. So if you want to do this as well, I know a lot of people kind of stopped making the MKAL. We're kind of waiting to see what Clue 2 looked like. I started out here, color A, doing it exactly as Miss Blaine instructed. When I went to my next triangle, I kind of like, how do you say? I changed the order where I did first triangle A, B, C, D. Then I did B, C, D, A, C, D, A, B. And then the final one was like the last order of that, which was B, C, D, A. I don't know. I think I put it in my project page, but essentially you just start each triangle with a different color and then use the same color order after that, so that every single one. So like this one starts with A, this one starts with B, C, and D. And I think it looks really cool. So now I am working through the outer part of that, which is very, very easy knitting after you get it all picked up. So I've got, 4 garter ridges of A, 4 garter ridges of B. I've just joined my C color, so I need to have 4 garter ridges of that, and then finally D. And then I will be ready for clue 2. I was making really fast time, and then yesterday when we got into town for the wedding, I didn't really have a lot of knitting time. We were running a lot of errands and then hanging out with friends and everything. So I think today we're doing a lot of hanging out, and so I'll be able to do a little more knitting then. Whew, just got hot in here. I'm gonna turn this heat off. We've got a propane heat in our van, and it was very nice and toasty last night. So I am grateful for it, but I don't think I need it right now. Okay, so let's talk clue 2. So again, if you don't want to hear anything about clue 2, go on to the next section, which should be questions. Okay, so I saw clue 2. I was trying not to see clue 2. I was going to watch through the video and see clue 2 that way and kind of prepare myself for what's coming up, because something that I've learned from the last few years making it, I've tried lots of different things. I've tried where the past several years, basically I've tried to just make it as it comes out, not look ahead at the sections, not see anything, not watch the video ahead, and just have it be a surprise every single day. I decided not to do that this year because, one, I would always find myself getting spoiled of the clue that I was trying so hard to avoid on Instagram or whatever. I would get spoiled and then I would be disappointed. And then the other thing is that I would be unprepared because I wasn't looking ahead. I wasn't able to see how much knitting was in a clue, and I wasn't able to kind of prepare myself to make alongside everyone and try to finish week over week. So this year I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to still try to avoid spoilers, maybe like the first day or two. That's pretty easy to do, but I am going to watch the video ahead. I am going to read the pattern ahead. I'm going to see what's coming so that I can prepare myself so that if it's possible and doable for me in an easy way, that I can stay caught up on the clues. And if it's not, I'm not going to be upset with myself. I really am not. I'm really trying to do more of a go with the flow knitting. Like if tomorrow I wake up and I'm like, no thanks, don't want to work on this anymore, back to sweater, that will be okay. And just enjoy myself. Or if I just want to work on my Musselburgh hat, whatever it is, I want to just enjoy. Like the deadlines, at least for these projects, really aren't any deadlines that I have to keep. I can change them if I want to. So I'm just going to do that. But I saw the clue 2 because on Instagram, even if you have a cover photo in front, the second time you scroll through that on your feed, it auto scrolls over. I don't know if there's a way to change that setting. If there is, let me know. I need to look into that. But I saw it originally with a cover photo, and then the next time I scrolled through, it was the actual photo. And I was like, well, dang. But I'm kind of glad that I saw it because I am not so sure that I love the second clue. And there's only one thing that I don't like about it, and that is the eyelets. I'm just not really a big eyelets person. I like lace, like when it's all over lace, but when it's just single rows of eyelets, I'm just not really a big fan. I don't know why. So I think what I'm going to do is actually make it even simpler than it is. And instead of doing eyelets and garter, I'm just going to do stockinette and garter. And somebody, again, in my membership, it's so nice to see so many people working on it and be able to like talk about it and see different ways to do it. But they did that with their clue 1. And so I was able to see like what it looks like to have just stockinette and garter in the multiple colors. And I really like it. So TBD, but I think I'm going to be just making a simple and easy change of just doing, taking out the eyelets on clue 2. I am very interested to see where things go next. I think because of clue 1 going through multiple changes, I feel really empowered to make changes to the shawl. And so I'm even thinking about what if later I want to change the shape and I just want to like pick up and fill it out, because I know for me that I don't really wear shawls. The fun in doing the mystery shawl knit along is that I get to learn new techniques. I get to have that element of mystery. I get to make alongside others. Like all of those things are really, really fun for me. But I don't really wear shawls, but I do use blankets. And I have used, if you remember my quadrophenia blanket, it is a square blanket. It is not huge. It is like lap size. I use that all the time here in our van. It's the perfect size. It rolls up really nicely and tucks into we have like a big pocket in the door of the passenger side. And I take it out all the time and I put it on my lap when I get cold, and it is great. So I'm like, you know what? If this shawl ends up squarish or rectangle-ish, I can just use it as a blanket, or I can kind of shape it off in a shape that works for me. So I'm feeling really empowered and inspired to do things that I like. So far on the MKAL, went through all the emotions with it, but I am back on track. I am back really enjoying things, really loving things, and I'm really pleased with my yarn and all of that. So this one has been really the heart of my knitting for the past week. Let's get into some questions. Okay, hold on. Where did I have them? Here on my computer. The internet is really, really slow where we are right now. So instead of doing my usual prep, I kind of had to, change it up a little bit. So things are in different places, but I got it now. Okay, question number 1 is from Amber. Hi, Natalie. I love knitting sweaters, but I've always had issues with cardigans and button bands. With my most recent knit, the Pressed Flowers cardigan, after picking up and knitting the button band, it is drawing up the front several inches. I've tried to undo the bind off several times until it looks awful because it's so loose. What am I doing wrong? Help. Okay, so a couple of things. One, I'm curious if your issue is with the pickup where you start the button band, or with the bind off, or both. And then the one other thing I want to say before I kind of like get into some tips is blocking is going to change a lot for your button band. So if you're really having a hard time with the pickup, I would say block your cardigan before picking up the button band, knit that, and then block it again. That's really going to help, especially with a colorwork item. Or your button band will be, if your button band is knit, your sweater's knit this way, right? Up, down, up, whatever. That was the opposite. Down, wait, wait a second. From the top down or from the bottom up? Okay, there, I got it. I figured it out. Your sweater will probably be knit in one direction, while your button band will likely be picked up and knit in a different direction, perpendicular. We got there. So the stitches are behaving differently. Button bands are also typically ribbing, so they scrunch in, right? So you're probably going to have a button band draw up a little bit. It shouldn't be a ton, but it will draw up a little bit until you block it. So maybe even before you bind off, if you could run some tubing through the button band, you could block it and just see if that's going to work out properly before you mess with the bind off or anything. Okay, so if you're having trouble with the pickup, I would definitely recommend blocking the finished item first before picking things up. That will help you understand if the ratio that you're picking up is looking good, and also just make the stitches more even on the edge where you need to pick up. I do try to follow what ratio the designer tells me. Like if they say pick up every 3 stitches out of every 4 rows, like whatever they say, I try to follow that. But also you can use your best judgment. If you must have a certain number of stitches, you usually don't. You usually just need either an even or an odd number. It doesn't matter if you're off by 5 or so stitches, 5, 10 stitches from the stitch count that they give. But I would pay attention especially to corners and stuff. Don't put too many stitches in corners or things can look very funny. And just try to stay consistent throughout. If you're picking up all the way around like this, make sure you mark different places so that you can check more often if you're matching on either side. So definitely you want to mark like the center back. Maybe you want to mark here where you have like shaping, oh, I want to make sure I get, 5 stitches here, then 10 stitches here on both sides. You can mark several times down your, like if it's a longer cardigan, down the front. And then as you reach those like light bulb markers, just like slip them onto your needle. So they're, you know, maybe pinned into the cardigan. And then as you pick up to that spot, you slip it on the needle, and it just gives you an easier way to count and again, match up on both sides. So that's with picking up. If you're having issues with bind off, there's several things you can try. And whenever I bind off something that has a really long bind off, whether it's the bottom of a cardigan or a button band or even a shawl, I usually test a couple of different things, take that all back, and then proceed with my bind off. I rarely get it right the first time, so it's okay to spend some time practicing. So one thing you can do if your bind off is too tight is you can, one, try a different technique, or you can go up a needle size. Going up a needle size or going down a needle size if your bind off is too loose is the best thing you can do for consistency. If you just say, oh, I'm gonna try to be loose this whole time, I'm gonna try to be tighter this whole time I bind off, you just can't do that. Like, you just can't be super even without knitting in your natural state. So it's much better to just go up or down a needle size, whichever one you need to do, and then you can stay consistent throughout. One of my favorite ways to bind off is, I have it in my sock videos, in my toe up sock videos. The last video is the cuff and the bind off. And I really like binding off that way. So you essentially work 2 stitches in pattern, and then I think you slip the 2 stitches back to the left-hand needle and knit them together through the back loop. And then, is that right? Yeah, so then you have 1 stitch left on your right-hand needle. Then you work 1 more stitch in pattern, move your yarn to the back, knit 2 together through the back loop. I don't think you have to slip them actually. And I have the video for that, so you can go look at the video. I know explaining it is not the same, but essentially you're working each of those stitches 1 more time, which gives you more consistency, more stretch, and it looks better than not binding off in pattern or not using something that's stretchy. So hopefully one of those tips will help you find a way to do it. I know it's tough, but it's worth taking the time to kind of get it right. And if it's not looking right, don't just keep binding off. Stop, try something different, back it up, and then you can see how it's going. And if you need a little like tester in between, maybe you can steam block it and like see how it's looking. It looks like Kent's coming over here, so I think we're about to move and go to our next spot. So see you in just a second. A few hours have passed since I answered question 1. We actually just had a really lovely lunch for the wedding that we're going to tomorrow in it was at like a tea shop kind of place, tea shop restaurant. So I had really good chai tea. It was amazing. So I've just joined back with a little toaster here in the car, and we are now in Boulder, Colorado. I'm actually in the parking lot of Boulder High School. I think it's the high school. They were doing paid parking because there was a farmer's market here today. And so this is where we could find parking that fit the van. So that's where I am. Everyone's gone now. The farmer's market is over. So it's just me and Toaster in this high school parking lot for however long that we can be here. Let's get back into the questions. This one is from Jillian. Will you be doing Vlogmas this year from the van? Can't wait. So I'm definitely planning to do Vlogmas this year. If Vlogmas is a new thing for you, it is where I film every single day from December 1st to the 25th. So it's kind of like a countdown to Christmas thing, but you don't have to celebrate Christmas to participate. I'm really only going to be talking about knitting and crochet and opening up all of my advents, which again, you don't have to celebrate Christmas to enjoy that. So that's what's going to be happening in December. I am definitely doing Vlogmas this year, and I'm doing it from the van. However, it's not going to be as adventurous as you may think, because we're pretty much going to be in Florida the entire time, which is something that we do pretty often in December. Kent's mom lives in Orlando, which is near Disney. We love Disney. So we're probably going to do a couple days at Disney like we like to do in December. And then we're going to do some traveling within Florida. So probably not multiple states in December, actually, but it will still be interesting and unique, of course, from the van. So we're definitely going to be doing that. It'll be fun this year. Okay, next up, This one is from Kara. I've just started watching all of your videos from the start. Oh, thank you so much. And I'd really like to get a yarn advent this year. Do you have any recommendations for advents? I'm thinking one with mini skeins would be fun. Thanks for sharing your van life with us. Can't wait to see more. Okay, so I love getting mini skein advent calendars. When I think of a yarn advent calendar, that's the first thing I think of is the mini skeins, but there are different types. So some dyers will do full skeins where you open one each week leading up to Christmas. Others will do, I'm trying to think what I've seen, a self-striping, like a single skein of self-striping yarn where it's either, you know, repeating colors and it's just fun to open it up on December 1st, or you try to do one stripe per day and all of the stripes, all 24, 25 of them are different colors. Those are really, really cool too. I don't have any of those coming this year. I did do one last year like that and that was really fun. This year I exclusively have, is that true? Oh, I've also seen where it's not yarn, it's progress keepers or something else that's yarny related, or even a combination. Actually, I think I have one coming that's a combination of tools and other things. So it's gonna be really fun. But I love doing yarny advent calendars. You can do so many things with mini skeins. You can also just open them all December and then start something in January once you see all the colors. You can mix them up. I mean, there's so many things you can do with them. And that's another reason it's fun to watch Vlogmas, is you can see everyone's different ideas for what they're doing with their advents, and you can see what advents people are getting and then make a note for next year. So typically a lot of hand-dyed yarn advents go on sale early in the year. So think like April, May, June. So a lot of dyers have already sold their capacity. They've been working on it for months and months and months because it's a lot of labor to either come up with, 24, 25 new colorways, dye all the minis, wind all the minis, package them, name them. It's an immense amount of work. So that's why a lot of dyers will do it so early in the year so that they can have that upfront cost taken care of to produce everything and then get it sent out to you in November. There are some dyers though that I think are still offering advents, or what will also happen. This is why you need to follow all of your favorite dyers on Instagram. Sometimes as they send, things will start to be being sent out soon. Dyers will realize they have an extra and they'll post it on their stories and be like, oh, just realized I've got 2 extra advents. Here's the listing, get it while you can. And that's a really good way to grab an advent kind of last minute. But I think there are some dyers that are still putting theirs out. I'm trying to think. For a long time, I was putting on my Instagram highlights, in my Instagram stories, and then saving as a highlight all of the yarn advent calendars. The last person I knew that had some was Ruby and Roses, but I think hers have all sold by now. So if you go on my Instagram profile, and you'll have to, no, actually you don't have to scroll over. It's not gonna focus. Right there, if you click on where it says Advents 23, you can just kind of go through them and you can click on those posts and see if anyone has any left. The best way, I think the question was any recommendations. I would recommend any hand-dyed yarn. I think all the ones that I can come up with off the top of my head probably have already sold out of theirs. But just follow your favorite yarn dyers and pay attention for next year. Pay attention in April, May to see when they're going to put them on sale. And then for right now, watch those stories and see if any more come up. If anyone knows of any dyers that still have advents or they're posting their advents now, so you can send me a DM and I will share it on my stories so that everyone can get an advent. One other thing to mention is I know a lot of people will either exchange advents with friends or just save theirself an advent, which I think is also a really fun thing to do with leftovers. So all throughout the year as you're finishing projects, you can wind yourself off a 20-gram ball, 10, 20 grams, whatever works for you. Typically 20 grams is what comes in advent calendars. And then maybe have yourself the little drawstring bags, or save one of your, the packaging from a previous advent and just pop them in there throughout the year. And then you could open up your own advent calendar and surprise yourself, or trade with a friend, or do 12 days instead of 24 days. There's just endless options, and nobody's sad when they're opening up yarn every single day of the month. Okay, let's see. This one is from Millennial Knitting. Question on sock fitting. I've knit a few socks, but I've always found that they twist on my foot while I'm wearing them with slippers. Am I making them too large? Should I try a smaller needle or less stitches? That's a tough one. You definitely can make some changes to your socks to improve the fit, but hand knit socks are just never going to function the same as a pair of store-bought socks that have elastic in them. They're just not the same. They're not the same materials. They don't fit the same. They don't wear the same. But if they're totally just twisting on you, that happens to me. I'm wearing hand knit socks right now, and I was just looking at mine, and they do start to twist a little bit. It's not with my boots. I was wearing boots before this, but like after I take them off and I'm just wearing my socks barefoot, they do twist a little bit more. But some things that I found that help. One, you might be making your sock too large. That can definitely help. You want your sock to have negative ease, so the finished sock should measure smaller than your foot. So if you measure, the easiest point to take is the ball of your foot. That's where your toe joints are. Like if this was a foot, it would be around, not including your thumb, it would be around here, the ball of your foot. That's usually what most sock patterns base their sizes off of. And that's great for your foot, but that doesn't always fit the rest of your leg and ankle and all of that stuff. So that's a good starting place. So my foot, I believe, measures about 8 inches around the ball of my foot, and I typically make my sock 7 inches around. So that's a whole inch of negative ease. That's a lot of negative ease. I like a lot of negative ease. Percentage wise, you probably want like 85% of, like to take 85% of what you're actually measuring there. The other thing that can really affect your sock and maybe can be the reason why it's flipping around is your heel fit. So yes, you want negative ease everywhere, but you want to make sure you give yourself enough room in the heel and the gusset and the instep, or if it's like too tight there and there's not enough space, then your sock is going to move. If you give yourself enough space in the heel, then it's more likely to stay in place. A heel flap and gusset is always going to be the best option. I do not like knitting heel flaps and gussets, so I like to knit short row heels, specifically the Fish Lips Kiss heel, but I do like to do some shaping. So I'll do some increasing before the heel, I'll do some decreasing after the heel, and that's what I teach in my Perfect Fit sock class, is how to take measurements of your whole leg down to your toes, basically the whole thing, and then do the math to figure out like, okay, I need this many stitches here, and then increase to this, and then decrease to that. That's what the whole Perfect Fit socks formula is. It's just complete customization of your socks. But if you're not ready to do something like that, you can just try adding in a few increases before your heel, knitting the heel, and then decreasing back down to something that works for the ball of your foot. That is really the best way to go. And then one other thing that could be playing a role is the length of your leg. If you don't have enough length on there to kind of steady the sock, it could also be flipping around. But if I had to guess, it would be too many stitches in the foot and not enough space in the heel that is causing your socks to flip around. So try a couple things. It always takes a few tries to get your socks really, really in a great fit, and it's always worth changing it up. Last question here is from Brooke. Hi Natalie, I was wondering if you ever compared the Knitter's Pride Mindful cord with the Lantern Moon cords. I want to update my cords for my current needle set, but I'm unsure which ones to go with. Okay, great question. I'm gonna grab my sweater because I have it on the Lantern Moon. So I love having interchangeable needles. They're the best. And for years I had the Knit Pick set, which is similar to Knitter's Pride. But you're asking about the Mindful cord, which I think is the one that's like a blue teal color. I've tried those, and they are a big improvement on the standard cord. So much better. However, I do think the Lantern Moon is better and worth the price. So Lantern Moon cords are really similar to ChiaoGoo. If you've used ChiaoGoo for like sock knitting, that's what the Lantern Moon cord is like. I don't know if we can get you can't really see it. I think it's where basically it's a steel cord inside there that's then has a coating on it. Yeah. It's okay, camera. You don't want to show that, that's fine. But if you've used ChiaoGoo, I would say the Lantern Moon cords is pretty much identical. It's very, very, very similar. ChiaoGoo still takes the #1 spot for me on cords, but I like wooden needles, and Lantern Moon ebony needles are awesome. So if you're planning to do magic loop at all, I would say go with the Lantern Moon. I just really, really like them. But also, get whatever set is going to work for you, whichever one you can find, whichever one fits your budget. Both of those are good needles. Just if you are able to make the choice between the two, I would probably go with the Lantern Moon cords. All right, that's all our questions for today. If you do have any questions for me, make sure to leave them down below with the hashtag question in the front so I can look out for it and answer it in the next episode. This week, I am remembering to do my news segment. If you didn't see last week's episode, I completely forgot to do it, and then I had to record it later on, and we're not doing that this week. I am remembering. So the newest video this week is our New Mexico vlog. This is a yarn store tour video, but it's a little bit different than the other ones that we've done because it includes 8 yarn stores and a yarn festival, and then a little bit of life in between. We really tried to incorporate some things that we were doing while we were traveling around Albuquerque and Santa Fe. So there's a little bit in there. We did our best to do it. I forget how much like time vlogging takes, and it's so like life is so different now. Like it's one thing vlogging at home. It's different vlogging like out in public, and then also always having Kent with me because he is a little bit newer to the vlogging thing. And so I think it'll be fun this year. You know, it's a new kind of challenge for us, a new style of filming for us. And it will be fun to do Vlogmas this year because we're both together all of the time, if that makes sense. Like at home, even in our apartment in New York, we could kind of like separate and be in different spaces, and I could talk to the camera and vlog. And like now it's like we're always together. So I don't know, it just changes things a little bit, but I hope you enjoy that one. We went to 8 yarn stores in Albuquerque and Santa Fe and the surrounding areas. One was in Taos. And then we went to the Mountain and Valley Wool Festival, and that was really fun. We also stayed with some friends in Santa Fe, so we got a little tiny bit of the things that we did together, going out to eat in Santa Fe, some of their beautiful home that we stayed in. It was so, so nice. The other thing that was hard about vlogging that weekend is we were just enjoying our time so much, like staying in the moment, that we kept being like, oh yeah, we gotta vlog, we gotta show this stuff. So that one is coming, or that one is the newest video. It's coming up for me and when I'm recording this right now, but it will have already posted by the time this podcast goes up. And then for next week, we are going to have 2 Rhinebeck videos. So again, no podcast next Thursday. Instead, there will be a Tuesday Rhinebeck video and a Thursday Rhinebeck video. Right now, we're kind of thinking Tuesday will be all of the Friday events, or the Tuesday video will be all the Friday events from Rhinebeck. So we're going to Cakepalooza, Indie Untangled, and Woolen Folk, and we're gonna try to include as many vendors there as possible. And then the Thursday video will be from our 2 days at Rhinebeck. We're going Saturday and Sunday. So that will probably include more of like a tour of the Airbnb that we're staying in. And I have all these contacts that I'm going to reach out to and try to coordinate like mini interviews with people at Rhinebeck. And then of course, everything that goes on at Rhinebeck. This will be our 3rd year making a Rhinebeck video. So if you are wanting to see, you know, anything, if you're watching this on Thursday, it will be the day before Rhinebeck. So you can watch our old videos and see, like, kind of plan a little bit. But since we've already done 2 videos there, I kind of want to, you know, always be making things slightly different and adding new and fun things to it. So that will be coming up next week. As far as events go, Rhinebeck is happening October 20th through the 22nd. So the 20th on Friday is those 3 indie events, Indie Untangled, Cake, and Woolen Folk. And then Saturday and Sunday is the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, which is specifically Rhinebeck. I have the links to all of those shows down below as well, but this will be the last week that they will be on there. Then ongoing right now, Knit Stars Season 8 is open through October 19th. If you sign up through October 19th, you get a bunch of bonuses, and the classes start on November 1st. I'll put a link down below. Okay, I also have in this episode the winner of our 200th podcast giveaway. So let me grab that yarn to show again. I have some really pretty yarn to give away today from our 200th episode, and it is kind of a kit for a blanket, but you can do whatever you want with it. There are 4 skeins from a homespun house of this lovely colorway Antique. This is the colorway I'm going to be using to join my Battenberg blanket once I get back home in November to my parents' house. So 4 skeins of that. And then this really yummy mini skein, like collection of mini skeins. To the person who was asking about advent calendars, a homespun house is one that I really, really like. But they put theirs out early in the year. So look at all these. These are little 10-gram minis. So this is all coming together for the 200th episode. Before I tell you the winner, I was just looking at some of the comments again, and I asked people to either share their favorite moment just from like Love and Stitches, or to share what knitting has done or crochet has done for them in their lives. And there are so many touching stories in those comments. If you just need a feel-good moment, go read the comments on episode 200, because a lot of people shared how knitting or crochet has helped them get through hard times in their life, deal with anxiety, get through diagnoses. I know that's not something like light to laugh at, but I can't figure out how to say that word right now. Or just get through other things that are going on in their lives that's brought them community. It was really touching to read all of those comments. And then a lot of you were sharing that you enjoy Vlogmas, you enjoy when I like teach or share anything, any tips in knitting. A lot of you said you liked having Kent on the 200th episode. That was one of your favorite moments. So noted. Kent, we're gonna have to bring you in for Vlogmas a lot more often. I don't remember if I saw, I'm sure some of you said Toaster was your favorite. Oh shoot, you're such a sweet boy, aren't you? He's on 2 pillows right now in the bed with a blanket. So spoiled. Anyway, I bet you want to know who the winner is. So I pulled your comment. I did this with a random number generator, and the winner is Michelle Wallace. 8925. We'll put your comment right here. You said, my favorite part of your podcast is how you've shown us how to fix mistakes or alter patterns for your body. I also love the knitting community. So congratulations, Michelle. You are going to be getting these lovely yarns to make whatever your heart desires. If you want to make a Battenberg blanket, you've got enough to make a mini version of that, or whatever you want to make. So if you'll send me an email, nittynatty@gmail.com with your name and address, that would be fantastic. I'm going to get that out to you. All of our other winners from that podcast episode that we gave away live, your stuff has shipped out. I've heard from everybody, so you should have some goodies coming to your mailbox very soon. When we left off with the last podcast, we were in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. And like I said earlier, we're now in Colorado, right at the very moment. This very moment, I am in Boulder. And, but it took a little time for us to get there. So pretty much right after the last podcast episode, we were staying at a rest stop, at a rest area. And then the next morning we got up and we drove out of New Mexico. But on the way, actually, I think this place is I don't know if this place is in New Mexico or Colorado. I know we stayed Wednesday night. Tuesday I recorded the podcast. Wednesday morning we drove, and then Wednesday night we were in Colorado, but I don't know if this stop was in New Mexico. Hang on. It was in New Mexico. Okay, great. So our first stop was in Los Alamos in New Mexico, which if you've seen the movie Oppenheimer, that is the location of that whole campus area. I don't know the right words for that. So we got to see that. We got to see like a kind of a recreation of the gate. There's still a lab there, but I think they moved everything over. And something that was interesting is Kit and I didn't know if people lived there in Los Alamos, which I'm laughing now because a lot of people live there. It's a very cute town. Basically, you're driving up the mountain and then all of a sudden you're just in this town. And it was so great because the leaves were changing there. The weather was cool. It was like very fall-like. It just felt so magical in a way because it was just so beautiful and the town was so cute. So you drive up and then all of a sudden you're just like in town, and we happened to drive by a yarn store. It was a quilt shop and yarn store, the Close Knit Yarn Cooperative. So I stopped in there. I did purchase a couple things, but they are gifts, so I'm not going to show you. Oh man, but I hate not showing. I guess I will say at the store, they have some hand-dyed and hand-spun local yarn. They had a lot of alpaca yarn. They had like alpaca sock yarn, which I had never used before. So it was wool and alpaca and nylon. Very, very soft, dyed by hand. And then they had a lot of hand spun. And one day I think I'm going to get my hands on some hand spun yarn in place of Spin Cycle in a sweater, because that's kind of, I think, what Spin Cycle tries to like base their look off of is hand spun yarn. But I think it'd be really cool to actually have somebody's hand spun yarn in a sweater. I think that would be really amazing. So there was many, many tempting things there, but I was pretty yarned out from Santa Fe and Albuquerque and doing all of their yarn crawls. And I know I'm going to Yarnbeck. I know I'm going to Rhinebeck this next weekend. So I just decided to get some gifts for some friends because there was some really cool stuff there. That's all I'm going to say though, because I don't want them to know what I got. After that, we decided to just stay in Los Alamos for another couple of hours and do some work. We found a cute coffee shop that was inside of a brewery because the coffee shop is like building their own space right now. So they're just in the brewery temporarily. So we stopped there. We got all our computer out. It was dog friendly, so we got to bring Toaster inside. And then somebody messaged me on Instagram, a knitter, that, like, enjoy Los Alamos, like I live here. And so I said, well, we decided we're going to stay for a couple hours if you want to come by and say hi. And so they did. And it ended up being just the coolest afternoon. Like, definitely what I want this whole lifestyle to be is just having really cool opportunities to see things and meet people that if we were always in a rush, we wouldn't be able to do that. And so we got to meet Becca, who was awesome. Becca is a teacher, a knitter and a teacher, and happened to be on fall break and was off that day. And so she was able to come and meet us, and we knit for a couple of hours, and it was so much fun. So we knit and chatted, had coffee. We actually got to know the person, the barista there, Natasha, I think was her name, and we just had a great time. Then we left Los Alamos. We drove across the border into Colorado, and we stayed at a campground that night, which was really nice because we hadn't stayed at a campground, I want to say, in a couple of weeks, because it's been since Disney when we were in LA. We have stayed with friends twice since then, but it's nice to be at a campground because then we were able to fill up our water. We were out of water in the van. We had drinking water. We'll always have backup drinking water, but we didn't have water to wash our dishes, flush the toilet, things like that. We were really, really low. So we were able to fill up. We were able to empty out all of our tanks and just get totally reset because we have this big, semi cross-country trip coming up next week. We also got to do laundry, all of that, less exciting stuff that comes with van life. On Thursday, though, we had a really great time. We drove up to, I don't know what town it's in, but we went to Great Sand Dunes National Park. This was the second time for Kent and I. maybe more than the second time for Kent, but definitely the second time for me. The last time we went, it was summertime and it was very wet. So you had to walk through like swampy, wet sand, mosquitoes everywhere, and then you could get to the dunes. And we walked up the dunes like, I don't know, 20 feet. They're so big. You think they're not going to be big, and at a distance, they just kind of look like hills. And then you get up to them and they are mountains. They are sand mountains. They are so big. And so this time it was cold in the 40s. So it was really chilly and windy and no water in sight, no bugs. Loved that, but it was pretty cold. So since we had already kind of gone up to the sand dunes before, and we didn't really have a ton of time. Plus I didn't want to get sandy because I don't like getting sandy. For me, it's like, yes, beaches are too sandy. I don't love it. I am a pool girl with the beach in the background. That's not entirely true. I will go to the beach, but I do not like being sandy. And so we just kind of walked out there a little bit, looked at them, and then had a picnic lunch and then went on our way. But it was very cool. And of course, Kent had to become a junior ranger. That night we just stayed at a Love's travel stop. I don't know why I'm sharing all of our stays with you. Is that interesting? I don't think I've been sharing where we've been staying as much, but if that interests you, I can keep sharing that. Okay. Now we are to Friday, and Friday was a bit of an errand day. So I don't think I've explained fully. I think I've hinted at it, but we're here in Colorado, not to visit Colorado, but for a wedding. So one of my good friends and former roommate, and also a knitter and also a yarn dyer, Brooke, is getting married this weekend tomorrow. And so we're in town for the wedding. So we wanted to get up here by Friday evening. They had an event, welcome drinks. And so we were making our way from New Mexico up to Colorado. So I needed to buy some clothes because I did not pack anything even remotely formal wear. The only dress that I packed was a cotton t-shirt dress that's like short purple lavender t-shirt dress. So I did not have anything to wear to any of the events or much less a wedding. And so Kent and I spent the morning actually it only took us about an hour. I think we went to TJ Maxx or maybe we went to Marshall's. I can't remember, one of those. And I found some dresses. So actually I'm wearing one right now. I really like it. I found some, I know this is like terrible for a knitter, but I found some sweater dresses that I bought, but there's no way I could knit something this fine. It would take ages, years. So I got some sweater dresses for the different events, and then I got a really cute little like jumpsuit for tomorrow for the wedding. So I'm excited to have some new clothes. And I probably will be wearing some of these things to Rhinebeck since I didn't finish my sweater or bring any sweaters. So fair warning, we're going to have some repeat outfits here. I don't know. Of course I'm going to have repeat outfits. I'm a human, not a model or anything like that. But yeah, so we spent Friday morning doing some errands, making our way. I think we had about a 2-hour drive from where we had stayed the night before in Pueblo, Colorado, up to Lyons, Colorado. And we picked up a friend at the airport in Denver on the way. Then we got into the area where the wedding is, or where the wedding's going to be tomorrow, and hung out with friends last night. So that brings us to today. Nothing really interesting happened this morning, but between me starting recording the podcast and coming back onto the podcast is when we had our really lovely lunch for the rehearsal. So Kent is kind of in the wedding, sort of. And so we got invited to the rehearsal like lunch brunch thing, and it was really, really good. Had some really delicious food, like chai pancakes and these like eggs with like Indian spices and really good chai, and it was really, really awesome. So at the current moment, everyone has gathered somewhere at a bar, and as soon as I am done with the podcast, I'm going to head over and join them. So we're having a really fun weekend, getting to see a lot of our friends. All of these friends, many of these friends, are from Dallas, so we got to see them a few weeks ago, but then we really get to hang out with them here. So that's really, really fun. And then coming up, we are going to be driving Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to be driving from Colorado, essentially Denver. I think we're going to go stay at a gas station tomorrow night. So we're just like ready to get up and roll in the morning. I think, cross your fingers for me, that I will be able to get a lot of knitting done these next 3 days. I have to kind of pace myself because I knit for too long. It does bother. And by too long, I mean like hours and hours. Should not be doing that anyway. So hopefully I can get a lot of knitting done these next 3 days. And then it's Rhinebeck weekend. If you're going to Rhinebeck or any of the events, please come say hi. I do not have any stickers because poor planning. And also I'm like, if I have stickers, that's just one more thing I have to carry with me and make sure to hand out. So no stickers this year. I'm not doing stickers, but I would love to see you. I would love to say hi. If you want to take a picture, I'm cool with that. I don't know whether I should like offer, this is such a weird thing. I'm like, do I offer to, if somebody wants a picture? Because I've been told yes and I've been told no, but I can handle yes or no. So I will probably offer just to make sure you feel comfortable if that's something that you want. I don't think we're going to have Toaster with us for anything. He definitely can't come on the fairgrounds, but he might be able to not like come to any of the events, but I wonder if he can be at Woolen Folk. I'll have to check in with the event venue, and two, maybe when we get there with the staff and just see if that would be okay. Because it would be fun to bring Toaster around for like maybe an hour and then let him come back to have some comfort and solitude here in the van. I know he always loves to be with us, and I know there are people that want to meet him, so I think that would be fun. Lastly, I am still reading A Court of Wings and Ruin. Those are some long books, but I've been making a lot of progress on it the past week. We have had a lot of nights with really weak internet, and I've been wanting to catch up and watch The Golden Bachelor and Bachelor in Paradise. I'm now 3 weeks behind. Like, I haven't even finished the first week's episodes, and I think we're coming up on the 4th week. And so eventually I'm going to get to watching those. But for now, when we don't have good enough internet or strong enough internet to watch watch a show or something, I'm just taking that as an opportunity to sit and knit and read, especially since all of my projects have been simple enough to do so. It's kind of been a nice little reprieve. For this week's tip of the week, I thought I would actually share with you a Ravelry tip. So with the MKAL and with lots of other projects, I feel like there's just been a lot of interest in modification lately, and I want to show you a way that you can use Ravelry as a tool to help you whenever you are starting a new project. I feel like I have talked about this before, maybe not in tip of the week, but in a podcast. So if this is not a new skill for you, maybe just share with us something that you like to use either Ravelry for, or if you use a different platform to get your patterns, how you use that to just get the most out of it. I am going to be showing some Ravelry screen share for the next part. So if you are not able to use Ravelry because of any of the, I think it was like the flashing animations, just letting you know for the rest of the podcast, you may want to just skip to the very, very end or stop here. Thank you for watching, because I am going to be showing Ravelry. Okay, let me get this screen recording going here. So I'm going to show you this with my Musselburgh hat, with the Musselburgh pattern. So anytime you start a new project, I think it's always really fun to go in and look at all of the projects that have been made and see how it, if it's a sweater, how it fits on different body types, and try to maybe find maybe somebody who looks similarly to you in like proportions. I always find that's really helpful. If the designer isn't your proportions, you can usually find somebody, or hopefully find somebody that has knitted or crocheted it that does have similar proportions to you, and see how they've either like how it fits them or how they've customized it to fit them, etc. So for the Musselburgh hat specifically, we're just going to look at how people have modified the original pattern and changed it up and made, put their own touches on it. So I'm here on my project page. And I am just going to click on the link to the Musselburgh pattern, and that will bring it up for us. Now, along the top, you'll see that we're in details right now. You can also go into yarn ideas. I actually don't know what that is, but we're going to go over to projects. Now, this one has 16.1 thousand projects. I would say most patterns don't have that many, but let's just click on that right now. Okay, so for some reason, I don't know if the designer chooses this or not, but there's usually a project spotlight, just a few samples that maybe have been picked to be shown. So you can already see right away on the far left is just the original hat pattern. Then you can see one where people did reverse. And if you click into there, we can actually see their whole project page. Maybe they did a photo with the hat laid out so you could plan accordingly. And then I've never seen one like this. This is actually really cute. It almost looks like a sweatband, a sweatband hat. It's really, really cute. So you can scroll almost endlessly. You can see like somebody did self-striping with ribbing. Somebody else did some ribbing. Here's like 2 different colors. It's just always fun, like a solid color. And maybe it looks like they striped, which was really cool. So it's just fun to see all of the different possibilities for a hat. But let's say if we want to go into, let's just go into this one. This is Oddly Happy's Musselburgh. So let's click into it. I think we have to actually click on the title to get the full thing. We can then click through all of their photos. We can see what it looks like. Oh, and it looks like they did include a photo for us of everything laid out. So you can kind of see the proportions that they did to get the hat to look the way that they did. Everyone is different on Ravelry, how they use it. So some people will put more notes in. It looks like this person did put how much yarn each section took and how many rounds they did, which is really, really helpful. All right, so hopefully that is a good tip for you if you didn't know about that project feature of Ravelry. Every single pattern that's on there has a projects like tab. Whether they have projects in there or not is to be discovered by you, but I especially love to do this when starting a new project, especially if it's a garment. It's just really, really helpful. And if you are somebody who likes to put your projects into Ravelry, don't feel like adding notes in there is going unnoticed. I read people's notes in their Ravelry projects all of the time, from people who have knit one thing to people who have knit hundreds of projects. And I always find it very, very helpful to get a little insight into what's happening in that pattern. All right. Thank you so much for watching this week's podcast. Again, I won't see you next week, but in 2 weeks, I will hopefully have, what's wrong with my mouth can't form the words today. Hopefully have lots and lots of project progress to show you. And next week you can look for 2 Rhinebeck videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.